Hey guys, let me ask you a question about your business. Honestly speaking, if you didn't come back to your business, would it still work and run as efficiently as it does with you there without you? Hello, I'm Joe Rockey. I'm going to be with Daniel McCraine here today talking about this very important fact that your business can and needs to be able to run, function, and be profitable without you. So, Daniel, I thank you for allowing me to join you on this great program again to talk about how we succeed this and the misconceptions that people have about their business that ultimately puts them down this rabbit hole of it has to be this way because I know no other way. This is where you learn the other way and how to get through these most common myths.
Yeah, and thanks for being here together with me, Joe. We did this like 2 months ago, and had a lot of fun, and decided we wanted to do it again. But it took us a little while to get our calendars synchronized again to get back together. So it's great
Well
to
worth
be.
it, and it's going to be well worth to everyone that's watching it as well. So, and if you are watching it live on that note, leave us the comments because at any point, both Daniel and myself are capable of going a mile and a half deep and also bringing it up to first grade level. Like we want to put it where it's the best digestible for you. So if you want PhD level information, we can get it to you. If you want it simmered back, we can do it to you too. And I can't see any of you, but if we were on stage, I'd be pointing at 3 of you individuals to be in charge of that. And I hope that all of you online would be willing to do the same thing.
Yeah. So, Joe, as we've done these before, we've had conversations. I know one of the first questions that comes to the mind of a lot of small business owners when I'm sure you get this too. I get this a lot when we talk with small business owners is why should I even be thinking about exit planning? And I know you've got ideas about what is on the other side of exit planning. Why should a business owner even be thinking about this and have it on their radar? Some 20-something-year-old or even a 30-something-year-old in their business. Why should they be thinking about exit planning right now, Joe?
Well, I'm going to answer that with a question and an answer. So the first part of the answer is you're already thinking about half of it. And the second part is, would you like to take a vacation without having to worry about your business crumbling? Because those are the two requirements for having a successful exit. Successful business, period. You have to be profitable and it has to be able to work without you. At the end of the day, your business requires both. And when it does come time to exit planning, transitioning, whatever the terminology is, it's a dimmer switch. And what I mean by that is you could turn it as much as you want to make it brighter, but if you don't push the thing on to turn it on in the first place, there's no light in the room. And just like the rest of life, you never really know when the end is. All of us are capable of having an unexpected problem that doesn't allow me to return to my business. For instance, say you find out, which is incredibly common, that your parents require long-term care. 30% of the workforce is going to have to deal with this problem in the next 5 years. So if you are going to be the member of your family required to put that effort in, will your business be able to work without you? Will it still be profitable? If you don't have this problem figured out, you're not going to be able to run your business. And yes, it's part of exit planning because whoever is going to acquire this business, an outside purchaser, an internal family member, or even an internal employee, it comes down to basic question. After this owner is done, what will this business look like? And depending upon how I think it's going to look, which means I'm putting all my own internal assumptions on it, which are costly, then I will determine how much it's worth to give you for it. Or in the case of most children, I don't have time to take over the business. So I guess it's going to get turned off because I don't have an extra, let's be generous, 40 hours a week to take care of this business. This is why so many businesses don't survive the transition from one generation to another. But take the exact same business, it's making some profit, but it requires no time. Well, any child's going to take that business. Yeah. Yeah, I will definitely sign up for I don't need to do anything, but I'm getting paid for the business my parents made. Like that idea. So, as the current parents, as the business owners, in a very real way, this is your requirement as being a business owner to make it profitable and to make it work without you. It also allows you to have the freedom of having your business. So you can take vacations, so you can go do activities outside of your business, such as speaking on stages about the causes you care about, such as going to the philanthropic efforts that you care about. You can't do that if your business is going to die without you being there, period. So your obligation is not just to yourself, it's to all of your employees that you know that they will still be hired afterwards. It's to all of your clients that they will still remain to be served. And oh, by the way, it's to the sanity to the rest of your family so that they don't see you stressed out trying to put out fires every 24 hours. So, Daniel, that was a longer answer. That is the answer to why should I care about exit planning? Because you already are, you just don't realize it. So you might as well do it right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Joe, I'm sure you've seen cases. A story comes to my mind of a retail shop here in town that closed its doors a number of years ago. And the way that the employees found out is they showed up for work one day and the lights were off and the door was locked.
Yep.
So whatever happened in that business, mismanagement, who knows, whatever it was, they decided to close their doors. But there was no communication, there was no plan, and it was essentially a self-employed job that just didn't work out. And it's heartbreaking. It's really sad when that happens. This is one of the reasons you and I were so drawn to each other when we met and started talking about how can we help small business owners together,
Mhm.
is that love of the community. That small business owner, that small business was built to be the hub of the community. Think like the old time barber shop where everybody went to hang out, or the local coffee shop where all the farmers come in and sit down around the table together. Whatever the business is, your small business is a hub of the local community. And anytime a small business closes, the ripple effect is what you were just talking about a moment ago. That ripple effect of a business closing is tremendous. Your vendors are going to miss you. Your customers are going to miss you. The community at large is going to miss you, especially if you donated in
Mhm.
multiple ways. Your employees obviously are going to miss you
Yeah.
and their families.
Yes.
And oh, by the way, I bet you paid some taxes. So the the
Yeah, didn't even
local
get to that
government,
department. But yeah.
the schools are going to miss you. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about building community here,
Mhm.
and all of these things together are where small businesses contribute to the fabric of the local community.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just no way around that. It's like anything else. By putting yourself in a situation where you're helping people, there's a magnitude of expectation that inherently comes with that. It's just part of life. And to do it right goes beyond just taking care of your clients and making sure they make you can make payroll this week. And I understand, especially in the beginning, that is the first and foremost challenge. Just make payroll this week. I get it. But if you're going to have a successful entity, you have to get past that and step up. That's basically the equivalent of graduating kindergarten, if you really look at it at the nutshell. And there's a lot of reasons, and we're going to dive into some of the misconceptions of these here from a structural standpoint. But one of the big ones I want to hit on, and I know that you see this a lot, so I'd like to have your answer with this too, is I see business owners get in their own way for essentially one of two reasons. Either A, they get helicopter parenting with their business. This is my baby. You're not allowed to mess with it. It's only my way. No one else can touch it. That's not how it works. Or B, which is might be just the other side of this coin. I have to be in charge of every decision because I don't trust any of you. And that's a mindset issue that you really have to be able to overcome. And I tell people this up front. We can do lots of psychological tools and strategies to do better, which we do. But at the end of the day, you still have to want to let your business grow and trust the people within it. And I just want to see how you address that situation, because I know you see it as well. So how do you address it when you see clients and prospects coming in with that type of situation?
Yeah, I do see that frequently, Joe, where the small business owner built this business. They've done it their way. It's always been done their way. They feel most comfortable doing it their way. They really do micromanage everything. And on the one hand, one situation is it becomes a family business, so everybody contributes. They all just kind of settle in. They do whatever the owner tells them to do. They all kind of carve out their own roles within the business, and no one steps on each other's toes because everything is all taken care of. But woe to the person who gets hired from outside the family into the company and comes in with some new ideas,
Mhm.
because that's not the way we do things around here. A young man, you're going to have to learn what we do here. And that person doesn't stick around for very long. And unfortunately, what that does is, because only the people who have been with the business for a while, it doesn't have to be family business, maybe it's good friends, whatever, but they get very siloed into their way of thinking and strategies they're going to use in their business, and they hit a plateau, and they can't
Mhm.
move beyond that because there are no external factors that help them to grow the business. And like we're talking about, the whole reason you want to do this is to somehow get the business to a point where it can run itself. You are not involved in the everyday, day-to-day
Mhm.
operations.
And my solution to that problem, because you're right, that's common. That's most places are like that, where you're doing your part over here, he's doing his part over there, you're doing this over there, etc. Right? But there's two fundamental starting problems with this. One is a sales issue, and that is, did we ever really address what the client expects from us? And to give like an old school analogy here, and I know I'm dating myself for all you millennials, deal with this, but remember the old projectors we would put on the screens of like high school and middle school, where you'd put a little clear box down and then you would have another blob you put on top of it to see what's filled in and what isn't? Well, that blob part is what is his silo, her silo, him, that, and the other. What is it we're actually doing that we build our own world around that we're unwilling to change? And the clear component is, what does the client actually want and expect from us? And what you will find incredibly often, the big blob part does not fill in the expectation of the clients. In fact, a lot of the blob is outside of the expectations. Said another way, wasted time, energy, and resources compared to what we could do to serve it. So rather than just doing, again, Dan, you're perfectly right. Everyone claim your own turf and just do it the way you want when silo mode, which again, this is plagues all companies, by the way. Big ones too. Silo mode's not good, because you have to be able to have on the ground integration. You have to have a very clear expectation of what the client wants, and then how do we meet it? And then take it to the next level of changing the relationship with your employees so that it's not, yo, outsider, get out. This isn't how I want to do it, to, no, well, we're a team. The better you do, the better I do, the better it is for everyone. We're all on the same page. That's a completely different business culture that goes beyond a mission statement. It's actually something you have to instill and integrate and have in front of your client's eyes and your employees' eyes constantly. So once you look at it like that, you can do this. Any business is capable of being in line with what their clients expect and have the employees ready to go and want to be in that line too. It's just you have to look at that relationship you have with your employees very differently, and you have to be willing to trust them and not be a helicopter parent who needs to hold them all in constantly. You're
Mhm.
building a business to fly. You're building a business made of adults. Trust them. At the end of the day, you hired them. Trust
I could definitely go down some rabbit holes there.
them. Let's go.
Uh, yeah. But we're going to focus on exit planning today.
Mhm.
So I better rein it in.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah, so Daniel, why don't we jump into those misconceptions that hold people back
Sure.
that are so important?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. So there are some common misconceptions that come up when we talk about exit planning, and we can talk about these as we go through here. Talk about some different options, but the most important thing, first of all, is to understand that there are some right ways to plan for exiting your business, and there are some wrong things that come up that you might end up doing, which really won't be helpful to try to exit your business. So that's what we're going to focus on right now. We're going to talk about some of the wrong actions that some people take, the wrong ideas they have about exit planning, and we're going to show you the right way to adjust your thinking or to maybe take action in your business in the right way. So the first one we want to talk about is this one, which is the misconception that I'm all taken care of. I've got it all covered. Everything is fine. So if you look around this table here, you see a number of people that are at the table to help run a business. And by the way, every business owner needs to have their own personal board of advisors.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't have a board of directors that include all of these people, but at least a personal board of advisors. So, who's your financial advisor, your banker, your insurance agent, your accountant? And all these people should be in a position to be able to give you actionable, usable advice to grow your business. And a lot of times, small business owners think to themselves, well, I talk to my accountant about my business all the time. I talk to my insurance agent about my business all the time. And they think, that's my exit planning. I've got everything covered. It's all taken care of. And the reality is, exit planning is not something, it's not a once and done thing. Things change over time in the business. Joe was mentioning earlier, as the kids grow up, as they have different ideas, as the business changes or develops. Maybe the exit plan when the kid was 2 was you're going to take over someday.
Mhm.
Then when they turn 16, you're like, no way that kid is taking over. And then
Yep.
26, they're like, you might be back in the picture.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot to that, um, which is why, and this is to the point here. You can't pigeonhole yourself into one direction. What happens if you're at that point with your newborn, you're like you're going to take over the business one day, and heaven forbid you get hit by a truck. Kid's 5 years old. He ain't taking over the business. This isn't Game of Thrones. So how are we actually going to make this work? That's why you need to be ready today, because you never know when the situation is going to arise. The other part, we want to look at this from a happier side. Maybe you're in a business that someone else is just really interested in, but you're not in a position where anyone's able to acquire it yet. Well, you could have left massive amount of opportunity on the table because you weren't ready. And while each of these positions are important, your banker, your financial advisor, etc., if you are not combining all of it into one systematic answer, they can really easily become just silent noises of the wind, where eventually I'm not paying attention to any of them, but I just hear the wind going by me. And that really is the fear that's with this. So one thing that I always recommend, and I know that Daniel, I think you're going down this direction as well, is that actually put a couple of them in the same room together. And oh, by the way, if they are good at their professions, they are going to welcome that because they're going to give each other leads as a result of you connecting them. What banker doesn't want to meet people who have lots of money? And and what financial advisor doesn't want the same thing? It's all part of this together, and it's actually a way to build your circle stronger and to empower everyone involved and make you actually their favorite client, which has never been a problem on any circumstances ever. But again, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole away from where you're taking it, Daniel, because you're right.
Sure.
Every single one of these, we can bribe it all this.
Very easily. But the thing that I do really want to draw your attention to as you're watching this slide is that exit planning is not made up just by one of these people at the table. It's not just meeting with your accountant and coming up with an exit plan. It's not meeting just with a lawyer and coming up with the exit plan for your business. But all of these people at the table have something to share, and they can provide additional insight into your business. I mean, even if we talk about the family options that are in here, family members, do you ever sit down with the family and say, "Hey, everybody, wife, family, kids, whoever, aunt and uncle, what do we want to do with this business someday in the future when I'm done with it?" And get their input. You may find that the kid you thought was going to be the best one to take over has no interest. But the kid you're like, "Oh, boy, I don't think they're showing any effort, any interest in the business at all," is the one who says, "I want it."
Mhm.
So you have to include everyone in the seat at the table when you're talking about exit planning.
The main takeaway I take away from this slide here, Daniel, is assumptions are your enemy. And the more you can do to get away from making assumptions and actually put the conversations on the table, the better. And the other part, this is not a one-time conversation. It's a here's the right. Your business is a relationship. I mean, that's ultimately a part of it. Yes, it's a revenue-making machine, no doubt, but it also is a relationship. And this goes back to what we were saying earlier. You have a relationship with the community. That's why you need it to last. You have a relationship with your clients. You have a relationship with all these other people and ultimately with the people who will be running it after you. So what are you doing to foster it? And just like any relationship, it's not accomplished with one phone call. It's an ongoing conversation.
hmm hmm Absolutely. Well, let's take a look at the next misconception that comes up around exit planning occasionally, Joe, and that's this whole idea of um, succession planning means retirement planning, and that's also not true. Sometimes business owners have this idea of no one's going to push me out of my business, or succession planning. Well, that's all about retirement, and I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. Or that last one there, we were talking about micromanaging or helicopter parenting. I
Mhm.
like control, and I'm not going to give it up. But that's not really what we're talking about when we're talking about exit planning or succession planning. So the things to focus on then are, even though no one is going to push you out, that's a misconception you need to toss out of your mind. When you sit down and legitimately come up with a real exit plan for the business, you can come up with a plan that can actually allow you to maintain some control
Mhm.
as you're going through this transition. This doesn't mean that tomorrow you're done, you're walking out the door. You can continue to have control over the company and do so in a way that it's more gradual, that it's more organic. So you're not just giving up control completely. And when it comes to the succession about retirement, hopefully that is part of your ongoing planning. I mean, financial advisors are going to tell us right off the bat, if we had somebody on here today, they would say, well, the time to start saving for retirement is the first day you earn your first dollar.
Mhm.
There does need to be an element of retirement planning in your exit planning. And if done correctly at the right time, then your eventual exit from the business, and again, I'm saying doesn't have to happen tomorrow,
Mhm.
but when you finally do exit the business, you can actually fulfill all of the family dreams and desires and interests that they had at that time. And for the last one there, I like control and I'm not going to give it up. Well, building the value of the business is another way that you can still maintain control of the business. Um, uh, Joe, you know as well as I do, there are only like 8 levers in any given business that will increase the value of the business.
Mhm.
If you are planning your exit properly, then you are also planning for how you can manipulate those levers in the business better so the business becomes more valuable as you approach that point in time when you're ready to step away.
That's right. Yeah, and this is so important because yes, we are talking about a transition of essentially what is a stream of income that your business is producing now to a potential lump sum. And yes, their financial advisors are always hovering around those kinds of transactions. That's part of life. But again, you're exactly right, is that this is not this, it's not the same thing. This isn't I'm using a financial instrument or this financial strategy, whatever. This is having the business ready. And again, having that game plan saying that it's going to be a transition period. It can be a long period of generations. It can be a short period of months. But what you also want to do is not have the other side of that coin of when someone wants to acquire your business, but they force you to stay to prove that it'll work without you. The goal of everything you just said here, Daniel, is to give you as the business owner maximum leverage and options. And that only comes with planning. I mean, planning and correct actions are how you do about it. And again, building the relationship of your business with your employees correctly, and your customers as well, obviously, but with your employees particularly, that's how you go about this. And so think about it. Your financial advisor can do a lot of great things in moving the inanimate element of cash, but they're not going to help you. How do you have the conversation with your staff that has been around you forever about how to treat your son who they might have hated forever? How are you going to have that? How are you going to be able to do this? And this is why the relationship element of these conversations are so essential. And as soon as you look at it from an objective standpoint, go, yeah, this has to be a lot different than retirement planning. Um, but
Mhm.
on the same note, you do kind of want to have a vision of what your time looks like after you're out, because you don't want to have the panic attack of, I just sold this and now I don't know what to do. But that's a different problem.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And in fact, working in the business brokerage, we had a sale that happened that way. Helped a client sell his business that he had built, worked it probably 40 years or longer. And it wasn't my client, it was another broker in the office. But the next day, the client called the broker in tears. He's like, I don't know what to do. Every day for 40 years, I went down and opened the store. What am I going to do today? So it's important to think ahead about what else is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
So,
making so you're not dependent upon it is a really big way of doing that. So
mhm,
it's like, well,
mhm,
I don't show up on Fridays, haven't showed up on Fridays forever. It's like I got used to how to do other things and finding other spots in your life because um I apologize. This might actually be one of the misconceptions coming up. So if I'm jumping a slide, I'm sorry. But you are not your business. You have your own relationships with everyone else. Your business has its own relationships. They are two distinct different entities. Yes, you are a part of your business, but you do not equal your business. And from an identity standpoint, you got to get that line refigured out because it can get blurred as you're constantly running around living in a state of just making payroll and putting out fires.
right, right. Yeah. Well, let me share this next misconception, and I'm going to enlarge the screen here a little bit
Sure.
as I do this to make it a little easier to read. Um, oh, there's probably supposed to be a picture that was here taking taking this up. But one of the things that we've talked about is that succession planning and business planning are not the same thing. That's a misconception that some business owners have. But planning for the future of your business means planning for the future of your business when you're not there.
Mhm.
So, some of the things to think about then are do you have the full support of the management? Do you have the excess capital and resources necessary for growth to occur in the business? Do you have confidence in your successors who may take over the business that they can actually manage it? All of these things are part of good business growth planning in the first place.
Mhm.
You always have to make sure that you've got good managers with strong leadership skills to be able to grow the business and then be able to continue to run the business when you're not there. This is the whole point we're trying to make of everything we're talking about today. Duh, you want a business that can run without you there.
Mhm.
Having the capital to be able to reinvest in the business, to grow the business. That's very
Because
important to make
on that
sure.
note of the capital, if you don't have it, it's getting taken away from what the purchase price would have been to come at you. I mean, that's
Yep.
part of it. No one buys a business for it not to grow.
Mhm.
Sometimes they get a business handed to them, they don't know how to make it better, but in their head, when they're buying it, they want it to grow. So you have to be able to have facilitate that. But as you're saying, that's not the same as the succession planning. If you're in the middle of growth and leveraging yourself out and you're just hoping it's going to stand and you're like, well, I threw all the lines out there. Now someone has to reel them in. That's not succession planning. That might
Mhm.
be a way to grow your business, depends upon where you're at, but it's not succession planning. And I think that that's important. As we mentioned before, your business is going to get evaluated by the two main things: how much money does it make, and how much are you dependent upon it. And yeah, both are important, but they're not vacuums of each other. And I think that's the key thing you're trying to say here. Just being in a
Right.
vacuum and making more and more money is not succession planning.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So the next misconception that we have comes up a lot, and again, let me enlarge this one to make this a little easier to read. But
Mhm.
this is the whole idea about I'm too young to think about succession planning. So this is the 20 something or the 30 something, sometimes even the 40 something year old that I talk to, who says, "No, I don't need to think about succession planning yet because I'm too young." Well, what that really means, what they're really saying is, I'm bulletproof. I'm never going to die. I don't need to enhance my business productivity, profitability, teamwork. The business really is about me, and I don't need to protect the value of my business or the welfare of my family. And another take on that is, well, my kids are too young to worry about exit planning or succession planning right now. And one of the things that I'm going to bring up here in a little bit, Joe, is the whole concept of you are going to exit your business someday in the future,
Mhm.
like it or not, one way or another.
Yeah.
And you better be prepared for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a building the succession plan correctly helps everybody. And to push back on it would be like, you know what? I'm not going to lose the weight until I'm close to getting diabetes. You know what? I'm not going to buy insurance until it's too expensive for me to afford. You know what? Like all of these reasons are just no. Like, why would you put yourself through doing it when it's harder? Which, by the way, losing the weight now, you get the benefits today. Becoming more disciplined, becoming better at communicating with people, you get those lessons today. Do you think that professional speakers just learn how to talk and give a speech when they get hired? Or do you think that they learned and got ready for that and in some cases had years of development before they did this?
Hmm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
I love that point.
Right. In fact, let me go ahead and jump ahead here a little bit.
Mhm.
Let's go ahead and talk about this. So there are four potential ways that a business owner can leave their business. So you've got to be prepared for all of these.
Mhm.
So the first way that you can leave your business up here at the very top, on the top of this cube, is your business is wildly successful. And so you're able to leave your business. Yeah, woohoo!
Yeah.
Uh, so the likelihood of that happening is, yeah, that's somewhat likely. That could
Mhm.
happen. So if we go to the opposite extreme and look at the bottom of this maze here, let's say the business is wildly unsuccessful and you've got to figure out what to do with it. How do you close it down? How do you shut it down? That's another scenario that you need to plan for. Like I mentioned, that one retail store where the employees showed up and the doors were locked, and they realized, oh, I guess I don't have a job today.
Yeah.
But again, the likelihood of that happening, just somewhat likely. Let's look to the left here. One of the more likely scenarios that's going to occur is that you do pass away unexpectedly, prematurely. And then you need to face the facts. It is going to happen someday. You don't
Mhm,
know when. But to Joe's point, do you buy the life insurance now when it's affordable? Or do you wait until you're on your deathbed and then try to buy the life insurance? No
mhm,
one's going to insure you then. So you have to plan for that right away and have something in place. What is going to happen to your business if you were to pass away unexpectedly, prematurely? Hopefully, you've got some kind of an insurance policy, and if it's not an actual legitimate insurance policy, at least you've got a insurance policy, including your management team, a successor, a steady stream of clients, so on and so forth. That's going to cover all of that, but you have to plan for that. Now, the most likely scenario that could occur, insurance agents tell me that becoming permanently disabled is 9 times more likely than passing away unexpectedly and
mm,
prematurely. 9 times more likely. I was just at a networking event this morning, Joe. There was a physical therapist there talking about a success story that she had with a patient. He had gone in to have a neck fusion done to fuse a couple vertebrae in his neck. Something went wrong with the surgery, and he became a paraplegic,
mm.
quadriplegic. Sorry, quadriplegic. But by coming in and working with her, he is now starting to regain some of his mobility and get the use back of some muscle groups that they thought would never happen. This guy apparently was in one of the top circuits as a jujitsu fighter.
Ooh.
So, just think about what if that was your business?
Yeah,
What,
and
yeah,
well,
what would happen if you couldn't come in and open the doors to the business?
and the other point of this is that as you build your business, that it's less dependent upon you. The other element is there's less stress than upon you. And the underlying cause of virtually every medical issue is stress and eating. And what is one of the things that cause people to eat the worst? Stress. What is one of the things that mess up your blood pressure the most? Stress. What makes you do extra drinking, caffeine, etc.? Stress. And building your business so you don't need to be there relieves the cause. Now, granted, not saying you're not going to get stressed out by other things, but the major stress that business owners has is their business,
Hmm.
and that's the other element of this. Just do it right. Again, do you want to live for 50 years of super stressed up and think that's not going to affect your heart, or would you rather fix it now when you can in the beginning and have a nice smooth ride throughout it? I mean, you put it in this way, I don't understand it's a concern, but I know it is. I deal with it all the time. It's illogical,
Right,
and it's just
right.
something that mystifies me, I guess is the right word for that.
Right, absolutely. Well, let's take a look at this last misconception that a
Mhm.
lot of business owners have. And it kind of goes along with those different exit points. How can you exit your business? But this is the last misconception we have for today, which is if I'm going to sell my business, I don't need a plan. And we just mentioned this earlier, Joe. If you're going to sell your business, that's great. That's all well and good. What
Mhm.
is your business going to be worth? Are you going to get what you want from the business when you try to sell it? Which takes us all the way back to, well, I don't think exit planning and business growth planning are the same thing. This is
Mhm.
all interconnected.
Yes, it is.
So yes, you do have to have a plan for what's going to happen to the business. So let me tell you a story here that happened. Here's one of my stories. So there was a client. Let's say his name is Jay. There was a conversation that took place among the family. Jay determined that maybe his children weren't really interested in taking over the business. And so Jay decided, okay, fine. There's no point in working on a succession plan. Let's just go ahead and work on the sales plan. So then Jay calls a little bit later on and says, I got to tell you what happened to me. Since we had that conversation about whether we were going to do succession planning or selling the business, I got a call from one of my competitors. And the conversation took off, and we talked about some exit strategies. We were just kind of talking back and forth. Worked with a guy for years, even though he's a competitor. And we started getting into some serious conversations about maybe selling the business to him. So we agreed to meet and talk about what kind of a price. And then uh, my competitor showed up with one of his advisors, and the first words out of this advisor's mouth were, "Can you show me your succession plan?" And I had to tell him I didn't have one. And as it turned out, that was pretty much the end of the conversation. So the rest of the conversation that I had with Jay focused on reasons why you still need to have a succession plan, even though the kids don't want it. And the whole plan from then on was just to sell the business.
Yeah, I mean, this from a negotiation standpoint, do you have more leverage when you have more options or when you have less options? I mean, it's kind of that straightforward. We had the plan. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what the new ownership's going to look like. Ideally, you're already not doing anything, but if you are still involved in your business, these are the three people that are going to take them over. They're already compensated in beginning that process. So therefore, when I am out, you won't even know I was gone. And ideally speaking, you will have been gone before you even start thinking about selling your business. But that story right there alludes to a very important point. You never know when someone's going to be interested and actually speak up. To step back into a macro picture of where we're at in the economy right now and in the foreseeable future it's roughly 30% of the US economy is privately held baby boomers and Gen X businesses, which means when people are looking at, should I buy your business or that business, there's going to be more competition out there than ever before. And this isn't like if you own a bakery that all of my clients come to me because I make the best bread. That's not what people buying businesses are looking at. They're not just comparing the bakeries in town. They're comparing you to the CVS and the muffler shop and the gas station. Because at the end of the day, the majority of people buying businesses are doing it for the investment, not for the business itself. So an investor has one of two questions. How much time do I got to put into it? What's my ROI? And if you have more leverage, it's like, you know what, dude, I appreciate that that's how you're looking at my business and you're discounting this, that, and the other. But I got two other people that actually do care and their price is here. Do you want to step up and play or not? That's leverage versus, I've never thought about it before. I'm not ready. Yeah, give me whatever I can get. Where do you think the better answer is?
I like the body language there too, Joe.
I try to be expressive.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so that kind of takes us through the misconceptions. Maybe what we could talk about is some success stories, though. What have you seen work successfully, where someone has put some things together, they've come up with a plan, and tell us something successful, Joe.
Sure. So one of my clients owns a hotel. I mean, hotels are nice, right? I use this example for a couple of reasons. Is most of us have been in a hotel, and you'll be able to visualize this because the inner workings of a hotel are pretty much exactly what you think they are. So when he was looking at this, he had massive problems when we first showed up. First, his turnover for his employees was constant. His life was basically going through Indeed, Craigslist, and all these other spots to just get some housekeeping staff that would barely stay for a while just to keep them in there at a relatively low price, essentially minimum wage. And that was his entire operations with this position. Pay minimum wage, yell at them if they do wrong. which is how the majority of this country treats their employees. You're not doing what you're supposed to, so we're going to yell at you, and you just do what we tell you. All right. And the norm for this situation was if the hotel over there raised their rate by 5 cents, that's literally all it took, his workforce fled. So now he was in a battle of basically saying, how am I going to get a workforce, or am I going to keep getting paid more? Because what he directly found was, under the way he was doing it, it didn't matter how much he paid him. The variation in cleanliness of his rooms was all over the place. He could be paying someone $50 an hour. I'd sometimes get a really clean one, and I'd get a bad one. It didn't matter to him. So this is obviously a massive problem. You can't run it when essentially the people in charge of your product are unreliable. But it wasn't that the individuals themselves were unreliable. They were all capable of doing the work. They knew how to vacuum it, make the beds, clean the bathrooms, etc. It was the relationship with the business was just tatters. That's what was unreliable. So we sat down and we overhauled a couple of basic things. The first thing that we did was we got away from the whole it's my baby, you got to do what I say mentality that we talked about earlier in the misconceptions. We said, for all the housekeepers, we don't care when you clean the rooms as long as they're done before X. And X just happened to be the early check-in time. And then the second thing that we told them was, you are going to get paid this much for an A+ room, this much for a B, this much for a C, etc. We'll train you on what an A+ is, and we'll put fair metrics in for evaluating them. But at the end of the day, the better you do, the more you're going to get paid. And obviously, the less work you do, the less quality work you do, the less you're going to get paid. Very straightforward. We go through the first pay cycle. All right, they got paid. They started coming in a little bit later. They originally had to be there at 6:30 in the morning. And if they weren't, John was on them. Boom. Fast forward about 3 pay cycles or so. I am 3 time zones away at this point. And I get a call of John in hysteria, telling me I ruined his business. This is a huge weekend for him, and none of his cleaning staff is here to have the rooms ready to go. Hysteria. Roughly 8:30-ish or so in his local time. And I tell him, you know what? Relax. Everyone will be there, and they'll probably be there within the next hour. Just calm. Takes him a while to calm down. He thinks he just ruined everything. He's trusting people that he doesn't think he should be trusting. But they all showed up on time, and they all not only got there on time to get the work done, they all left basically by 2 o'clock. So a position that was changing money for time, of getting there at 6:30 in the morning and basically not leaving until 4:30-ish at night to be able to get all of the income I can extract from them, changed. Now it was, instead of just very slowly walking through a room and cleaning it, doing it with a gusto and a desire to learn how to do it better and innovating about how they do it. Because before, the requirement was just 1 room at a time, open the door all the way to the window, come back. Now it was opening 4 doors, or in some cases even 6 doors, and then compartmentalizing it, doing all the bathrooms at once, doing all the vacuums at once, etc. All of this happened from 2 basic changes. It doesn't matter when you show up, and we're going to pay you based upon your quality. And now, oh, by the way, I kind of buried the lead here. The amount that he's paying his employees now is roughly $40 more a week. So really minor, because the variance of the cleanliness of his rooms has shrunk. All of his rooms are top-notch clean now, which ended up resulting in higher costs for the rooms, which instantly cover their expenses. And now he has the opposite problem of what he started with. He's no longer scouring to try to call for new people to come work for him. He's actually getting too many inbound calls of people wanting to work for him, because the relationship between his employees and his business got fixed. He went from a situation of stressed out of his mind, probably going to have a heart explode one day, to now, just put him in an inbox. We'll get to him eventually. I don't need to worry about this. And the best part of this is we did a little bit of other work, but I just start with that example there. He used to have to be in his hotels all the time, micromanaging and doing them. Now he only goes as a guest. And most of his employees don't even know he's the owner.
Mhm.
That is the change that has happened when you talk about how to build a business where you're not being involved. That's the key. So he gets a call now about what's your exit strategy? I've already exited, man. Like, this is the number I'll accept. You want to pay me? Cool. If not, my kid's taking it.
Nice. Yep. I'm already out.
Exit strategy 1.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, and on my side, let's see. I've got a story I could share. I
Yeah.
worked with a lady who was building an online community. Um, she set her sights. She wanted to take out Tony Robbins.
Cool.
Actually, is what we didn't get there, but
Gotta
anyway.
have vision.
Right, exactly. So she was building this online community, getting things started during COVID, which was a really nice way to kick things off, and build an online community because everybody was online during COVID. Great news is when everything opened up again, did not change her business model at all. She was a wonderful person to work with. By the way, we're still working together. I should say that too, because she's the person who would always come to our meetings with ideas, and I would actually have to say, okay, hold on, let's focus on, does this get us toward automation? Does this get us toward systemization? Does this get us toward having procedures that other people can run? And so we started mapping out everything that happened in our business, all the different functions, all the different workflows, and we would document those things. And then she was so fun to work with. She would put it into practice.
Yes.
I don't know if you can believe that, Joe. She would actually put it into practice.
Best clients do. There's no way around that.
But then she would come back and she would say, okay, so I did it and I just determined it's broken here. So she would go fix it. But over the course of the last couple of years, she's built something where she's recruited people to be able to take over core functions of the business, key areas. She's built something that's duplicatable, it's scalable. She actually doesn't have any employees in her business. She's built a business model that others can come into. They can build their own business following her model. They take over the things that she was doing, and we are so close right now. I think we're calling it official. As of the month of June, she has stepped away from her business. There's still a few more minor things that have to be done that'll probably take us up through September, because one of the platforms that she was using announced they were no longer going to support that platform. So she's got to step back in. She's got to take care of that. So that'll take us a few more months. But she is exiting the business, and we just had a conversation last week. She said, this actually doesn't mean that we're not going to be working together anymore. It just means we'll be doing it differently. So that's going to be fun going forward. She's not selling the business, but she has built a business now that does not need to run with her in it. And she's like, that can go do its own thing. I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm going to retain control and ownership, but I'm off to have fun now.
That's exactly it. That's the joy of this. One of the misconceptions we had earlier was you have to assume you're selling it, but you don't. It gives you your life back. And you hear the end of it like, okay, yeah, we got to this spot. Then there's one hiccup. It's only 2 months later. Well, compared to what the mountain was that we just came over, yeah, we'll be able to figure out a new platform. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, because it doesn't mean you sell it. Again, going back to the way a financial advisor would look at it, right now you have a stream of income that's coming in from this business. All you're essentially doing when you're selling it from a financial standpoint is changing that stream of income into a big pile of money. That's basically it. So I love it that, there's nothing wrong with having 7 businesses or even just one that you don't need to be involved in. It does allow you to go and have the freedom and the joys that you want to do. And think of how much different your lifestyle would be if you weren't tethered to where you're at, putting all this time into it. and you truly would function and operate without it. Because I mean, yes, there's still a lot of work that comes left. She's going to check and make sure the bank account's still getting filled from it, because everyone still does that part, which is technically work, I guess. But it's a whole lot different than trying to figure out how to put out the fires and guess where the next ones are coming from. And that's the joy of doing this right, and using that model that you just described there of not only that, but empowering all of those employees who are under her to fix their own problems. So much of the starting point, as I alluded to before, is it's in your head. How much do you trust your relationships you're building, and how do you enhance them?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, Joe, we are kind of coming up on the end of our hour here.
Yes, we are.
So let me ask you a question. I'll put it to you first. If someone wanted to reach out to you and have a further conversation, what would be a good way to do that? How could they reach out to you, Joe?
This will be the best way. Elite Business Conversations, elitebusinessconversations.com, the plural. Just reach out to us there. If you're watching us on LinkedIn or on one of my pages, just directly DM me and we'll be able to get you to the right spot. But that's the answer, elitebusinessconversations.com.
Okay, I'm just preparing that here. Let me see if I can throw that up on the screen. So there you go,
Perfect.
elitebusinessconversations.com.
That's
There you
right.
go. Best way to get a hold of Joe. All right. And if you'd like to get a hold of me, have a conversation with me, here's a couple ways you can do that. I'm just going to go ahead and throw my phone number out here. So give me a call. And there's my email address, daniel@mccraine.com. Would be some great ways to get a hold of me. So there's a
And
few
then,
options for you.
do you have any restrictions upon who you work with, Daniel?
Great question, Joe. Not necessarily restrictions. I won't say that. I will say that there are some businesses that I work better with
Okay.
than others. I tend to work better with businesses that focus on services provided to customers
Okay.
rather than to other businesses. I'll just be honest. I'll be honest with you up front if you give me a call. Some areas I know that I am not good in. Retail, restaurants, manufacturing. Because of supply chains, because of trying to plan ahead, I have no idea how you plan for how much food to prepare for a number of guests in a restaurant.
Better marketing system.
I am not your guy.
Yeah, get the steady flow up higher, raise the floor. That's how we go about it, at least. But that's fair. So again, to recap the ones you excel in that you love doing.
Right, right. Services provided to customers. So if you got a business providing services to customers, and that can range from I've worked with dry cleaning, house cleaning, driver education, or remodeling. So any types of those services provided to consumers, I do really well in.
Perfect, perfect. Well, that's great to know. And then just to answer the same one in return, I'm the hospitality space and then the web-based space. So you already heard the story about a hotel. I also do basically if you have employees that are working remotely, that's kind of where we really thrive. When your most of your interactions are through a computer screen, that's the kind of companies that we're really able to help.
All right. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, this has been another great hour, Joe.
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed our time together. Coming up on the end of it here. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Any
Likewise,
closing
and
thoughts?
we thank everyone out there for being with us and watching. And please share us if there's someone that is struggling, they're getting burnout as a business, that they're having, just long story short, stress in their life because their business. Refer them either to Danny or I, because that is really what we solve at the end of the day. We're going to give you that angst that was inside of you and let it out, and you're going to end up with a completely different life on the other side of that mountain. Now, granted, it takes work to climb a mountain, but that's what's going to happen.
Yep. Very awesome. All right. Well, with that, everyone, have a great day. We wish you success, and we'd love to be part of that success if you think that's in your future.